Are you having a hard time sending faxes through your FusionPBX fax server? No problem at all. This is the right video for you. Hi there, my name is Mary. I am the support specialist for VoIP Hubs LLC. We are VoIP service providers, and we have a multitude of different plans, ranging from $16 every month to $50 every month. In addition to our SIP-track plans, we have our cloud-based hosted solution, which is $15 every month per extension. If you would like any additional information, please don't hesitate to visit www.voiphubs.com, or you may call our main number, which is 336-663-1333. Alright, without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first thing that you have to ensure is that you have a fax server already configured. To be able to do that, please click on Applications, click on Fax Server. You'll be met with this interface, then click on Add. Now, let's begin filling in this information. We'll start off with the name. Because I already have a pre-existing fax server, I want to make sure this one is a bit distinct, so I'll just call it Fax Server 2. Again, with the extension, please make sure that whichever extension digit you choose, it is not duplicated somewhere else within your FusionPBX server for that specific domain. Whether it may be a ring group, an IVR, an extension, just make sure that it's something distinct. Then let's go down and focus on the email aspect. Here we'll put in an email address that will be the email address that will be receiving the faxes. One thing about the fax server, you do have to remember that it is a fax to email server. So whenever you receive a fax, it will actually be sent to your email address, and this is the email address that will be sent to. Now, of course, abc@hotmail.com may be an existing email address, but this is just something that I'm basically using for testing. Or as an example, I would say. Upon filling in this information, you actually don't need to fill in anything else. You just click on Save. And you'll see that your fax server has been created. The next step is you have to make sure that all incoming calls to the fax number actually are routed to the fax server. To be able to do that, please click on Dial Plan, click on Destination, and then add your DID. I've already added mine. I simply need to go on the Actions settings and ensure that it goes to the appropriate settings, which is the Fax Server 2. Another important aspect is the fax detection. That is an extremely important aspect. Make sure that it detects the proper fax server, which would be, again, Fax Server 2. If you scroll down, you see that the usage aspect is not enabled at all. Just make sure to enable it as fax, and then click on Save. Upon doing so, the next step that we have to do is we have to ensure that the SMTP information is set up properly to be able to receive the faxes, have it forwarded to the specified email address, so then they are able to see the faxes in PDF form. To be able to do that, you have to go to Advanced Default Settings, and in the search bar, you just have to type in SMTP. You have to make sure that SMTP is all in lowercase, and upon doing so, you'll be met with this specific interface. This information under the category email has to be filled in. Now, let's say you have multiple subdomains and you want to move this information to those subdomains. You simply click on the checkbox at the top right beside subcategory. You click on Copy. You choose the domain from the list, and then you click on Paste, and then you click on OK. But I won't do that for now, as this has already been done. I will just help you kind of understand what this SMTP information is and what's needed to fill it. So we'll first start off by explaining what this SMTP information correlates to. There are two aspects to a fax server. The first aspect is the receiving email address. This is the email address that will be receiving all incoming faxes, and that email address is the email address we put in the fax server when we created it, which was abc@hotmail.com. So the email address and information for the SMTP that has to be filled in this aspect is the forwarding email. This is the email that basically gets the incoming fax, forwards it to the receiving email address. So once we got that, once we understand that aspect, we can actually begin to fill in this information. So let's say that the forwarding email is on the Outlook platform or Gmail platform. You will be able to find the SMTP information if you just do a basic search on Google. So let's say, for instance, your forwarding email is under the Outlook service. To be able to find out the SMTP information, you simply need to go on Google. You need to type in Outlook SMTP information, just as I did, and I clicked on the first link, which directed me to this interface, and I was able to see the SMTP information. The server is smtp.office365.com, port number is 587, and then you use TLS, which is available. And let's say you have a Gmail account, you do the exact same thing, just as I did here. Go on Google, type in Gmail SMTP information. I clicked on the first link, and it gave me the server, which is smtp.gmail.com, the required encryption method, which is TLS, and the port number for the TLS encryption method, which is 587. Now, once you have this information, you can slowly start to fill in this specific settings of your SMTP information. So let's start off one by one. The SMTP from is the email address of the forwarding email, the email that will be forwarding the faxes. The SMTP from name will just be the basic title that you give. You give the SMTP information, so when a fax is forwarded to you, you kind of understand where it's coming from. Let's say we are doing this for VoIP Hubs. It would just simply say VoIP Hubs fax. The SMTP host would be the server address. So for Outlook, it will be smtp.office365.com. For Gmail, it will be smtp.gmail.com. The next aspect is the SMTP host name. You just basically duplicate the server. So whatever you have in the SMTP underscore host, you put in under the SMTP underscore host name. The SMTP password is basically the password associated with the email address that will be forwarding the faxes. The port is the port number that you see, which is 587 for most cases, but it may be different depending on which email server you're using. SMTP secure, as you can see, it's using TLS, and then the SMTP username will just basically be the email address of the forwarding email that will be forwarding the faxes to the receiving email. After you fill this in, you just have to make sure that under enabled, all of them are set to true, and then you will be good to go. Another way of knowing if you're 100% good to go is you may test. You may send a test, and it will let you know if there's an issue going on, what the issue may be, or it may just simply say that it's successful. To be able to do the testing, you simply go on status, you go on email logs, you click on test, and you type in an email address. It doesn't necessarily need to be associated with the forwarding email or the receiving email. It's just an email that is accessible to you, so they may send you feedback on whether the SMTP information failed or if it pushed through or not. So let's just use something as simple as abc@hotmail.com. This is just as an example. And during the example that I just showed you, you saw that I didn't actually put in any SMTP information. Because I have a prior fax server, I've already pre-configured my SMTP information, so it will most definitely be successful when I send this. Just in case there's any confusion as to why it is successful, it is again because I've pre-configured a fax server already with the proper SMTP information. So once we click send, a dialog box will come up and it will showcase to you if everything was successful. As you can see, the result is message sent successfully, and you have quite a bit of information here that you can toggle back and forth with to try to understand why it did not go through. So we'll give you a very descriptive details as to why the SMTP information may be failed, maybe there's an authentication issue. There are two things that we've noticed that come up quite frequently, and these are two things that you need to make sure to target when you use a specific forwarding email. The first thing is allow less secure apps. This is something that needs to be enabled on your specified email. To be able to do that, you just simply go, let's say for instance, this one is a Gmail account. You simply go click on this bar right here, and sorry about that, click on this bar right here, and then you'll be able to go to your settings. Once you go to your settings, you'll meet this specific interface, and then you click on security. As you can see, if you scroll down, right here, less secure app access, you have to make sure that this part is turned on. Right now it's currently turned off for this specific email because I'm not using this email for forwarding whatsoever, but this part right here needs to be turned on. Another thing that you need to focus on is you need to make sure that two-step verification has been disabled. Again, we've noticed that this causes some issues with some of our clients, and this can be done, of course, on your Gmail account as well as your Outlook account. For your Outlook account, I actually did not specifically see the allow less secure app setting, and so I kind of bypassed that. I've also used, an Outlook account to be able to do my SMTP information, and it worked completely fine. But on the Outlook account, you do need to make sure that the two-step verification has been turned off. As you can see currently for this account, it's been turned off. If you see it turned on, just disable it. After disabling it, you may go back to your server, you may go to status, you may go to SIP status, and then reload the XML, flush the cache, log out, log back in, and then you'll be able to test it again. So these are two very important aspects. And again, when you do the test, you'll actually have a full description as to why things did not work out. And it will actually even give you a link at the end of the description as to why it didn't push through that you may access, that will give you additional information to help you set things up properly. So now that we've got our fax server, we've got the SMTP information, we've created the incoming routing to be directed to that fax server, we are good to go. The next step is to actually send out a fax. Now this is completely different than what we just did right now. What we just did right now is we created a way in which we may receive faxes accordingly and have them sent to a specified email address. But to be able to send faxes is a completely different story. So let's toggle that right now, and that is actually the main topic of this video. I just wanted to make sure to give you a little bit of a rundown just in case you're completely new to this and you want to make sure to have all the information to be able to not only send faxes but also receive them. Now let's begin configuring the server that will give us the ability to send faxes. So please click on the server that you just created and click on the advanced section. Once you do that, the advanced settings will come up, and what you have to fill in is basically the account connection. Over here, you have to input an email address, a specified email address that will be used to enable remote inbox. So you start off by getting your IMAP information. Let's say that your server is, the email address you're using is Outlook. You just simply go, you put in Outlook IMAP information, and you just click on the first dialog box that comes along, and it will most likely give you the IMAP information. So for instance, for Outlook, it's outlook.office365, the IMAP port is 993, and the IMAP encryption method is TLS. That is what you put within these aspects. So type is IMAP, you put in the server, you put in the port number right here, you choose the TLS security settings. You have to make sure that validate certificate is true. You have to make sure that this is always enabled. So by default, I believe it is already enabled, but let's say for whatever reason it's not, just make sure to enable it. The username would be the email address that you'll be using as the specified email address to enable remote inbox, and the password would just simply be the password of that email address. In the mailbox folder, you just simply put inbox, and that is pretty much it. You save this information, and then after saving the information, you then begin to send your faxes. Now, the first thing we have to make sure is we have to make sure to set our outbound caller ID name and outbound caller ID number. To be able to do that, please click on the fax server that you just created, and then beside the caller ID name, please put the caller ID name that you would like the world to see when you make an outgoing fax. This is generally a company name followed by whichever service you're using. For this current example, it's a fax service. So, for example, I'll just put VoIP Hubs LLC Fax. And then the caller ID number would just be the number of the fax DID itself. I'll just use the company number, which is 336-663-1333. Upon doing the following, please click Save. Now, what we're going to do is send out a test fax. So when you do that, or to be able to do that, please click on New, which is under the Tools category, and you'll be met with this specific interface. Now, as you can see, you have many optional text boxes here. You can choose to do them, choose not to do them. For instance, I will just go one by one. For the header, I'll use VoIP Hubs. I will skip the to, I will skip the fax number, the fax files for now. I'll go down to the subject. My subject will simply be testing, and then I'll send a message saying, contact us. And again, I will just put the company number, which is 336-663-1333. Now, let's say you're wondering, well, does this look professional? Am I going to want to send this out? Well, the good thing about that is you can actually preview it. So if you click on the preview right here on your top right corner, it will actually download the preview for you in PDF format. And upon doing so, you may click open, and as you can see, it gives you a preview of how your fax will look like, or at least your cover sheet. So as you can see, the VoIP Hubs is the header, the subject is testing, and then contact us. But that is as far as it will go because we did not attach anything. So let's exit this, go back here, and actually start to fill in all this information. So we'll focus on the fax number first. The fax number is extremely essential, and of course it's essential, but one thing about it is that it has to be formatted a specific way. You cannot simply just put the fax number and expect it to work. What you have to do is you have to format it in this specific manner, which is bracket out, bracket, colon, fax number. Now, for this specific fax number, I actually found it on Google. This is a test fax number that anybody can use. It's accessible for everybody, and you simply fax a test fax to this number, and they will actually send you a test fax back and will inform you if it was successful and if it was not successful. So I'm just using this for this example. The next thing that we want to do is we want to attach a PDF. That's usually what this service is for more than anything else, is to be able to attach a PDF to a new fax, send it out, and then the receiver will be able to open that PDF and have the fax, whether it's a prescription or whatever it may be. So we click on the choose file, and then we just find a file. So let me just maneuver to my download section, and I just attached a PDF called "This is a test," and this is just a PDF. If you open it up, it will simply say "This is a test." So upon having this specific information, that is pretty much all you need. So you just click on send, and you wait for a little dialog box to appear on here saying OK. When you see that dialog box, that is actually what you're looking for, which is right here as you just saw it. So one thing about faxes, uh, and this is correlating with the SMTP information that we put earlier, is you have to make sure that the email address that you're using to enable the fax IMAP faxing does not have two-step verification, and allow less secure apps is enabled on it. So you have to make sure that both the SMTP information and the IMAP information, both those emails have those things disabled as for the two-step verification, and enabled as for the allow less secure apps. So one more thing that you have to always remember with faxes is sometimes they take a little while to send. So don't be frustrated or anxious if you don't see it sending immediately, because with everything, and especially with faxes, they do take their time sometimes. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go back to the fax server, and we're going to look at the log file. The log file will showcase to us whether it failed, whether it didn't fail, and if it did fail, what type of result we get. Uh, Fortunately for us, this actually went through. So as you can see, the result is okay. This is the outgoing number, and this is the date. Now let's say you want to go back and you want to click on your sent files or folder. Again, you will see this is the fax that we sent out. This is the name of the fax. VoIP Hubs LLC fax, the caller ID number that we inputted, and this is the destination. And what we can do to review it, or at least preview what we sent, is under the view category, you just simply click on the PDF aspect. Again, it will download the PDF, and it will showcase to you exactly how it looked like when it was sent out. So currently, it's the same type of concept for the cover sheet, but if you scroll down, you see this is the PDF that I attached. Again, it just simply says this is a test. And that is pretty much it for setting up your fax server. So just a quick recap before we go. We created a fax server. We made sure to have the appropriate receiving email address implemented in that fax server. We made sure that the inbound routing was set accordingly. So a fax comes in, it hits the fax number, it reaches the fax server, and then it is forwarded to the appropriate receiving email. We configured the SMTP information for the forwarding email, and we configured the IMAP information to be able to send faxes, as well as tested it and ensured that it worked accordingly. Thank you so much for watching this video. I truly appreciate it, and I hope that you've enjoyed it and it helped you reach your objective. If you don't mind giving this video a like and potentially subscribing to our YouTube channel, we would really, really appreciate that. We create content consistently to help ease your mind in regards to anything VoIP related. Again, please don't hesitate to visit our website, which is www.voiphubs.com, or you may call our main number, which is 336-663-1333. This has been Mary from VoIP Hubs, and I hope you have yourself a wonderful day.